Hello, calling all Clone Club members for our weekly clone call. We're breaking down episode 3 of Orphan Black, the next chapter. We're talking about it right now, so don't go away.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz...
Welcome back, Clone Club. It's time to break down episode 3, Bread and Pottages, written by E.C.Myers.
I'm sorry, written by, say that again.
E.C.Myers.
E.C.Myers, because Eugene's gonna be on the show.
Pew, 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 pew. That's our producer, Jeff Graham, in the booth. We're really excited because we're gonna break down the episode per usual. We're gonna go through our clone sestras and kind of where they are, the big revealing news, which we're gonna tie into our special segment. Oh, clone, you didn't. And then, like we said, our very special guest, E.C.Myers, will be calling into the show. He'll be Skyping us in just a few minutes. So right after we break down the show, we're so excited. And again, I do want to remind you guys, if you're seeing this stream and you're wondering how is there more Orphan Black because the show hasn't been on for a few years,
let me tell you, the story continues with the official ebook and audiobook narrated by Emmy Award winner Tatiana Maslany. Get the next chapter of Orphan Black. You get it on Serial Box, and you can download the Serial Box app, and you can visit. We have a bit.ly link that's going to be in the show notes where you can download that app, and new episodes air every Thursday.
Yes.
So episode 4 will be this Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, they have been amazing. So
they have. Truly... Not like people say, oh my gosh, this ranch dip is amazing, but like actually amazing. Like the way you use the word.
Agreed.
It's great.
Great metaphor. All right, let's hop right in. Let's check in with our dear friend Art, who finally meets up with Jay, this mysterious investigator who has a hold of some footage where she inquires about a glitch. She's looked into it and she sees there's a glitch.
And this is the footage with Casima.
Yes.
With Casima talking to Dr. Sturgis, who, remember from last episode, y'all, we thought he said, oh, no, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Alive.
Yeah.
He alive, girl.
Yes, he is.
And so that was like, what was cool is that, like, so it's going to be a big deal now because it's like they're talking about facial recognition, and they think, I guess from what I got from this, they think it's Katya. Right? Or do they think it's Casima? I was a little confused on that.
She doesn't necessarily think it's Casima, but the footage just does show that Casima was there. So now they understand that she was in some way a part of it. They're not exactly sure how. Jay thinks that it's that it's not the separatists who hate genetics, because there's a group of people that hate genetics. She thinks it's higher ups, which that's always how it is with Orphan Black. It's always some messed up government sector that takes things too far, and that ties in perfectly with what Sturgis was telling Casima, that there are higher ups that got this his research and are going to use
it for a weapon. I love that this whole interaction with Jay was such a parallel to how we knew Art. Like when Art, he was like, Beth was killed, something screwy's going, or Beth is acting weird, something screwy's going on. And he was like, and Art said, like, he's seen that Jay is a good investigator. And so it made me think, like, okay, is Jay going to be like, total, I'm going to get all the clones, but then by the end of the series, like, come around and be like,
a homie. I hope so, because she seems cool. She seems like she was like Beth, similar to Beth, just really good instincts, wants to get to the bottom of things, isn't necessarily on anyone's side, just wants answers, which is similar to Art. But poor Art, he can't take a break. I mean, he put his life on the line for all the clones, all the sestras, adopted Charlotte, and now is pulled back into this. And obviously, the first thing, it seems to me, he's most fearful for Charlotte, which he gives her the heads up.
It also said, and y'all come at me if I'm wrong, because I probably am, but it says he has 2 daughters, Charlotte and Maya. I don't remember Maya.
His original daughter with his ex-wife.
Wow.
So yeah, she was barely in the picture, but he was always present. Like, they always had a relationship. She just wasn't in the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See.
We had too many clones to keep up with.
There was a lot.
Children could not be involved in the drama of Orphan Black. We needed to spare them.
Children cannot be involved. But so like that, so Art really is like, whoa. So they think Cosima could be like they quote hostile force.
Yeah.
So he's like, I gotta warn Cosima, and I gotta warn all the other clones to like, it's going down.
But he plays it really well, and we touched on this a little bit before, that he gave them just enough information yet again to kind of fill their cup but not give away his MO, which is obviously the sisters first and foremost. So let's move on to
that
Alison.
was tense, by the way.
Yeah.
That was tense.
I
That
know,
whole
I was like,
art
what's he
scene.
gonna tell?
I was like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Who's going to put it in? Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
It's awesome the way, and we talk about this all the time, the writers and the production of this show, they are able to include so much buildup in audio. And I'm just as tense and stressed as I was watching the show as I am listening to it. So kudos to this awesome team. And so Alison and Charlotte, that's another team. They're a great pairing. They're a great little
I
pairing.
missed Alison. I missed
I
her.
know.
They are a great pairing because it's like Charlotte doesn't mind Alison mothering her, but she still rolls her eyes at her. And I mean, just Alison, the seductress. That whole scene with the guard. Where she's, or not the guard, but like when they pull through like so they're basically, they're going to customs because they can't fly out, so they're like driving down to Boston. But when the policeman pulls her over, and she's like, the whole just bit, I just could see the so visual of her just saying officer and like, oh my daughter or my sister or my niece, and it was just. I just love Alison. I just loved it.
And that storyline kind of intertwines to the clone call, which we'll get into. But before that, the sequence of events that led up to that were really interesting and tense as well. When Vivi is bleeding from the wound from the explosion, and she's like taking a bunch of pills, going to Alison's house, not realizing she looks like Alison because she's also one of the clones. The neighbor sees her. I forgot Alison had the drug problem.
Oh, yeah. No, I did remember that. And so when it came up, then she was like, oh, again, and I'm not just saying this because we're going to talk to Eugene, but like the writers are using everything that was given to us before. It's like, and it's great. It's great.
So she ends up breaking in and sees on the computer there's an Orphan Black manuscript. Okay.
Which,
Alison...
Again, I was kind of like, I remember the way the show ended. I love the ending, but because I just watched the ending again, and like I forgot. Oh yeah, Helena starts writing this. She says she's going to write like a diary or book of all of her experiences, and I was kind of like, oh well, that's sweet, but that'll never be used again. And here we have literally. Again, I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to download this and read all about what's happened.
I know. Well, it was interesting, even from her looking around the house. I love the way they describe Donnie and Alison so perfectly. It's like what seems to be the perfect suburban home doesn't seem that way due to the sex toys.
They got some sex toys,
all
y'all.
The things that
Donnie gets kinky.
They are the best couple. So she sees the clone call, ends up hopping into the call, which I guess the Sestras, they made this emergency call because of Art.
Because of Art,
Art's warning. So that call didn't give away too much. I think that she could walk away thinking that they are not the murderers or the explosion people. They're more just collateral damage of it. What did you think about that?
No, exactly. I feel like it's yes. I think that they're just. But I think what's scary is just that once one person gets made or found out, one of the clones, then it just is going to lead to all the other clones. And I love that we have this pool of Charlotte, and then later when Charlotte talks to Kira, which we got a lot of Kira in this episode, which I liked. But when we're finding out Charlotte and Kira, they've kind of been wanting to come out. As I say, but come out in the public because Charlotte brought that up in the call, and Alison was like, ugh. So I kind of think this is cool that we have kind of the old guard versus the new guard. Yeah. That's like, hey, let's see if this actually could work.
Good point. And before we get into our special segment, let's talk about Kira quickly. Yeah. She's sequencing her DNA. She's just like her mom, breaking all the rules, but in a way that she wants to help the greater good, which is low-key Sarah's MO as well, whether she chooses to admit that or not. Mm-hmm. And she wants to compare her genome to everyone else. So, but she realizes someone is on the server downloading a Canadian rare genome set. So we're going to get, I think, a lot of discussion about cyber tech and security and how much is too far. And they spoke on security programs, and once they roll it out, it's hard to pull back. And we see that's very similar to what's going on in America. Like, there's a lot of security things that want to be passed, but with that, we do lose freedom in a sense.
Yeah. Well, and then there's one thing, and maybe people know either in the live chat or in the comments, or maybe, but Charlotte, she texts Kira and says, "Remember what we agreed upon." We don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We don't know what that is.
No.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, see, we're getting some teasers.
Okay, so quickly before we hop on our call, we have to talk about the big moment of the episode. This is our
Oh, Clone, you did it!
And like always, we love if you guys write in the comments below on YouTube if you're watching. Give us that like button, the thumbs up.
The thumbs up.
But also leave us a comment with your Oh Clone You Didn't moment. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us those 5-star reviews. Leave us a review with your moment as well. We love to keep the conversation going. So let's get right into this.
Sure.
Charlotte breaks in. She's a little CIA agent.
She is not a good girl like everybody thinks. She's got a little bit of a spy in her.
Oh,
She breaks in this hospital. Again, this is like, I loved how she said Alison, like she learned from Alison how to like fool the guard and like totally like be like, oh, I fell on my hurt leg, wah, me. And he like goes running. But I was shook, totally shook. Like, y'all, I was like listening to this on my headphones, kind of like cleaning and doing some stuff. And then literally at this point, I just stopped everything I was doing. And I was just kind of standing there because I went, first of all, she's breaking in this room, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to meet a new clone and save a new clone. But then when we find out, it's not the same disease. So this means, from what we're learning, what if somebody knows? Like, what if somebody knows about the clones and they're targeting the clones and killing the clones?
A different disease.
Because now we know that they can do that now. They can target people like with brown eyes or blue eyes or clones.
Or any sort of genetic marker that they can now do that. But it's airborne, they assume, from the signs. We don't know if it is, but that's what the signs are saying.
Oh yeah, and she touched her.
Charlotte touched her.
With her hands.
So that is our moment.
It was stressful.
Real stressful, but we do have to we're going to call Eugene up right now.
Let's do it.
Who, like we said earlier, he is the writer of this episode, and we are so excited to be talking with him today.
Do we have the rights to Skype music? I don't know if we do. You're going to hear it now.
Eugene, can you hear us and see us?
I can hear you, and I can see one of you. And the other one. Hi.
Hi, we're so excited to have you on the show. We're big Orphan Black fans, and now this next chapter is definitely giving us the life we needed from the Orphan Black franchise.
It did. It's a little like we're being reborn.
Yeah, I felt the same way getting to write it. So,
were you a fan of the show originally?
Oh, absolutely. I think I started watching it shortly after it aired. I still had cable back then, so I started watching it on BBC America. And then, so I watched the whole first season and started telling everybody they needed to watch it. And then by the time the second season rolled around, I didn't have cable anymore, but I just started buying like the subscriptions on like Google Play. I did that
too.
Yeah. So I only own seasons like 2 through 5 because I only watched the first season like on cable. But then I've been streaming it and I need to rewatch it. So.
Well, what was that like for you? Because I know Tatiana's talked about like some of the. I think we've had some writers wrote for the original Orphan Black and some did not, like yourself. So was there pressure for you to like, you felt like, because the writing's always been, I think, great on this show, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a bitch, I'll be honest. It's been really great. But so with the pressure of like coming into this already establishment, what was that like for you? Because that's different a lot of times than just writing something new.
Yeah, well, so we had Helly Kennedy, who had worked on the show, and she also worked on the official sequel comic book series, Crazy Science. So it was really great to have her in the room with us because she was, she was kind of a good gauge of like what the studio would want, and she kind of had that knowledge. There was, of course, pressure. The main pressure we had was obviously, making sure that the studio was happy with what we were doing, but we were also really concerned about the fans and just writing something that really could honor, the legacy of that show. But we also had 5 seasons of amazingly written episodes to draw on. So, and Tatiana's performances. So it's kind of it's easy in a way to write in a world that's been pre-established. You don't have to kind of do all that character building. We had to extrapolate. Yeah, we had to extrapolate like where those characters would be, 8 years on, what the world would be like, things like that. So we had some world building, but we had such a strong foundation to build on that in some ways it was kind of like getting to play in somebody else's, sandbox.
And how did you get involved in this project?
So I had done a couple of other serials with Serial Box in the past. My first one was Remade, which was a young adult science fiction series. And then I was also working on another one called Alternus. And so when Serial Box, I guess, first started talking to the studio about Orphan Black, I let the producers know, like, I am very interested in writing for this. I love the show. If I can be part of this, just, say the word. And they initially had reached out to some of the writers to kind of pitch ideas for what that series would be. So I threw a pitch in there, and when they finally came up with a story that worked, that the studio was happy with, they remembered me, and they brought me in, and I was so excited. Like, I was like, you guys don't need me. Like, you have four amazing women writers. Like, what do you need a dude in this room for? But I also didn't want to say no. So, like, if you really want me to be part of this, I will totally work on the show. Exactly. Like, twist my arm. So I was excited and felt really, really happy to be part of it.
You were the only male writer in the room?
I was the only male writer in the room. We had our
awesome.
producer. Yeah. Hopefully I didn't screw it up.
This episode was amazing.
This was a great
we should have
episode.
led with
Thank
that.
you.
This episode was truly amazing.
I mean,
Thank
really,
you.
I don't know if you were listening to us, but very much
Stressful.
You made me stop cleaning while I was listening. I was standing in my apartment because
That's perfect. That's a true compliment. I have a friend who she puts our manuscripts when we workshop them. She puts them through the treadmill test. If she forgets that she's exercising while she's reading a story, then you know that it's in really good shape.
It's good. What's it like too as a writer? And maybe, I don't know your experience if you've written for television or other things before, but just in doing this, I feel like are you allowed to you have carte blanche? You can just kind of do what you want because you don't have to worry about how we're going to film this.
Yeah, in terms of the set pieces and, we can within reason, we can do things like that. Like, we can go big, but it has to make sense for the characters. It has to make sense for the story.
Like Orphan Black in space.
Yeah, I mean, maybe season 10 if we get there.
Okay.
But we also have the studio, and the studio they're really good custodians of the intellectual property. Like, they aren't going to greenlight just anything and slap the name Orphan Black on it. They needed to feel comfortable with what we were writing as being an extension of the show. Like, it had to feel right to everything that they had built. And a lot of that is also for the fans. Like, if the fans aren't happy, if the fans aren't going to buy it, then it's not going to work. So we really tried to, we could do a lot more that you can't do on the screen. But we also were sort of hampered because on the screen you have Tatiana Maslany, right? Yeah. And it's a lot easier to follow what's going on, both in terms of plot and with the characters when you have her on the screen and you have characters just acting things out. She's done a fantastic job with the audio version of it, though.
Oh yeah.
And it's been a joy for me to get to listen to it because I've worked on the episodes. We all brainstormed them together. I wrote many drafts of episode 3, but now I get to enjoy it like a fan does, because she's performing it and she's giving it a different kind of life to it.
Did you get to work with her at all? Was she involved in the writing process with you?
Oh, I wish. No, I mean, no. And she came in late, like, in the process. Like, I when we first started, I don't think that the writers knew that she was going to do this. And I think that, at the point where they brought it to her to see if she was interested and available because she's busy, it wasn't a done deal that was going to happen. So then to know that what we had written kind of helped convince her that this was something that she should be involved with was pretty great. And to hear her talking about the series and everything, that's really that's an honor for me. And just even, I geeked out when I went last week when the episode dropped and I could hear her, read my name and she's reading stuff that I wrote. Like, that was really awesome for me.
What is So maybe you already wrote them, but who is the clone that you were dying to write for?
The clone that I was dying to write for. Actually, I think it was Alison.
Oh yeah.
So I got to do a lot of Allison scenes, when we were, and it just sort of worked out that way when we were divvying things up, because we all came together. We wrote the way that they probably write the show, like the writers all were in one room planning out the arc and sort of the character through lines and all of that stuff, and then we kind of divided up the episodes. So that we all would go off and write them, on our own. And I think traditionally for Serial Box, I tend to end up writing the third or the fourth episode and like the seventh or eighth episode. And I think that I don't know why that always ends up happening, because I don't tend to say, oh, I really need to write this one. I'm just like, whichever one nobody else wants, I'll do it, because I feel like I can do.
You're just happy to be there.
Exactly.
As a fan of the story, though, you wrote Alison perfectly.
You did.
And just the Hendrixes as a whole, the specifics were amazing. I was laughing when Vivi was going through the house and able to pick up on the oddities of that family.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you.
You just created the house. Like, I could see the way the sunlight was. I remembered the living room. I remembered her craft room. Like, you really brought all that back to me.
Thank you. There were for some of the early drafts, Donnie was actually in that scene, interacting with Vivi and a little bit more. And
no way.
Yeah. So that was kind of fun to write. So that's like deleted scenes versions. There's like alternate reality versions of the story on my hard drive, and it just wasn't working. So he ended up going by the wayside. But that was one of those moments where it's like, all right, well, my presence in this writing room is justified because I'm at least writing like a guy. I guess I wrote some of Art's scenes too. So
yeah, you definitely did. Art's voice was really present in the entire beginning half of the episode.
And actually, you really gave. We talked about this last. We talked about a little bit. We actually talked about this last episode, but we listened to 2 and 3 at the same time. So we actually talked a little bit of 3 in our episode 2. Mm-hmm. But one thing we talked about is just kind of the empathy we had for Art, because we just saw the art. We were reminded of the arc of this man who, was being totally fooled by Beth and totally didn't know what was going on, to now literally adopting one of these clones as his daughter and fully supporting all of these women when he was not necessarily against them, but he was trying to expose them. Mm-hmm. And so and even in the show, I was listening to this and we talked about, I don't even think in the last couple of seasons of the show, I just forgot that was Art's journey, and hearing him he's gone through this with Katya and now he's dealing with this, and you just did a really good job of making me feel for him and also making me just anxious for what was, like when you talk about like, he could see her looking at him and noticing his reaction of when she was asking questions. And I'm just sitting there going, don't make a face, like poker face, Art, poker face. Anyways, very well done.
Yeah, thank you.
What was your biggest goal with this episode?
Not screw up. Well, it's been really so I thank you for all the compliments. So I did the actual writing, but it was a team effort. Like, we all brainstormed every episode. Like, all the writers were very involved, and even in like the revision. So even though I did the bulk of the work in terms of actually like delivering this episode, like we all had a part in every episode. So it's a testament to the whole team. I think that it works as well as it does. Like, there are a lot of moving parts. And so, I was really excited for this episode to get to sort of establish Kira as a character. And like, my background, most of my writing has been in young adult science fiction and fantasy. So I felt like this was like kind of my moment to like really kind of get to play with her voice a little bit and just kind of get into her head and make her, because we didn't get to see a lot of her on the show, certainly not as the character that she is now. So that felt like a real opportunity that I wanted to, every episode I'm trying to kind of pick up where the other authors left off, and set things up so that the next author doesn't have trouble, figuring out like where things are leading. Like, we have everything's outlined, but you still need to give them certain details that they can work with, and you hope that something that you create will inspire them in some scene that they're working on, and it all just kind of fits together.
That's amazing. I do love to always ask because I think there's so much fun things that happen in a writer's room. Was there any really great behind the scenes moment when you guys were in the collaborative process?
It was all a blur. So we met for, I think, 3 days at the start, and it was a lot, because so we're all huge fans of the show, and a lot of it was just kind of running through the different possibilities for the series. So, I mean, we had
not to interrupt, I just wanted to ask, was it always intended you were going to leap forward, or was that a progression as well?
Yeah, it was sort of past it was always going to be like a leap forward, just to kind of see like where the characters are. So it's like so the interesting thing with it was that the time has passed in like real time from when the show started, but the time of the actual series was condensed. If you look at the 5 years of the show, it was really only like a few months, or I think like half a year or something like that. So it was kind of like, where's the world now? But the characters, are much later than they are at the end of the series. And you also want to give I think the main thing was that we needed Kira and Charlotte to be at a young adult age, like so that they have agency, so that they're doing something. So we were thinking they have to at least be like seniors in high school or college freshmen or something. They have to be characters in it, that can go out and do things on their own. So that was one of the things. I don't know if that was sort of like what went on in the brainstorm, because the series pitch predated me. I came in after they'd already the studio had greenlit the idea, and then I came in and we had to sort of make it work. Like you had this like rough idea of what the series was going to be, but then we had to actually like figure out all the logistics and have it be realistic and figure out where all the characters actually are at that point in their lives.
That's amazing. I mean, you guys are doing such a great job. We can't wait for the rest of the series to unfold. But in the meantime, I would love for you to let us know where listeners can find you on social media, and what other projects are you working on or looking forward to work on?
Sure. I'm all over the internet. The easiest place to find me is probably Twitter. I'm at E.C.Myers. That's E.C.M.Y.E.R.S. I have a website, and I have Facebook and Instagram and all of that. But Twitter, I'm pretty active on Twitter, so it's easy to find me and interact with me there. The main things that I've been working on lately, obviously still doing some work on Orphan Black. And the main thing that I have going on is I've been working on Ruby tie-in novels. I don't know if you're familiar with.
The animated series.
Yeah. So
awesome.
I wrote. So my first book for them was After the Fall. It was the first media tie-in young adult novel for Ruby, and it came out over the summer. And so I'm now working on the sequel, Before the Dawn. So that's like the main thing that I'm working on.
Well, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you for a great episode. Yes.
Thank you so much, and thank you guys for doing this. It's really exciting for us to get this kind of feedback from fans and from viewers and readers. So and to also know that we're doing okay right now.
You're doing good
doing
stuff.
More
I'm
than
sure we'll
okay.
talk to you again.
Bye,
Thank
Eugene.
you so much.
Bye, Eugene. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
That wraps up our show here at AfterBuzz. Such a great episode. Eugene was so awesome.
And if y'all still are waiting to hear, be sure to get Cereal Box. We're going to put that bit.ly link in the little show notes where you can download this. I'm telling you, it's so worth it.
In the meantime, where can we find you?
You can find me at @TheMattMarr, 2 T's, 2 R's, on Instagram and Twitter. Where they can find you,
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw. You guys keep tuning in with us. We're going to have more writers and creators from this show with us on this after show. So we'll see you guys next time.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the